Hey, it's Jayson Werth. Welcome to the Phillies show.
Hi, everybody. Ruben Amaro Jr., Jim Salisbury, Todd Zolecki, brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. It's Thursday, November 14th, 2024. We've got a special guest today, 2008 World Series champion, Jayson Werth, but he's more than a World Series champion. He's also a Belmont Stakes champion. His horse, Dornoch, won the Belmont Stakes this summer. Definitely saw videos of it. Jayson is out right now promoting the sport of horse racing. He loves the sport. You will listen to this interview and you will realize how much this has become a passion for Jayson Werth, trying to get more people involved in the sport of horse racing. So we talk a lot about the Belmont, his love of horses, how he got into it, why he wants other people to get into it. But of course, we circle back to baseball, talked about Bryce Harper, Trea Turner, Chase Utley, winning in Philadelphia, resurrecting his career with the Phillies, and when the Dodgers released him many, many years ago. So enjoy this one, Jayson Werth. Jayson, man, thank you for joining the Phillies show. How are you, man? It's good to see you.
Yeah, we're good. We're down here in Florida. A couple hurricanes later, but we're doing all right. Hanging in there.
All right. Good, man. You're always one of our Jim and I, we talk over the years about like favorite guys we covered, and you're always at the top of the list. We always loved writing about you, talking to you, interviewing you. And now it's kind of cool to see this second career you have, this new passion that you have in horse racing. So, I mean, first of all, congratulations on you and Dornoch winning the Belmont. I mean,
yeah,
pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy. Kind of got into this thing a few years ago. Was buddy down here in Florida. We did some Florida breds and was like, well, this is a lot of fun. What else can I do? And was mostly doing Phillies. Surprise, but went to the sale in Keeneland and I bought like 5 colts that year. And the first colt I bought was Dornoch. So I mean, just dumb luck, I guess. But yeah, crazy run. The guy that I bought him with, the trainer, was like, "Oh yeah, get it on this horse, man. Well, you'll be on the Derby Trail." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds like fun." And like people later on were like, "That guy's so full of shit. Like, you don't just buy a horse and be on the Derby Trail. Like, no, you don't know what you're getting." So definitely lucky and to just been on a crazy summer. We run 4th in the Bluegrass in the spring. It kind of a little bit disappointing. Had a little foot issue coming into the Derby. We weren't totally sure. We draw the 1 post, which was just a death sentence for a draw. I mean, no horses win in the modern era from the 1 post. So it was a little disappointing, but we felt like we had the horse to win, and he's still like, he didn't run bad. But going to the Belmont, we were like, we think we had the best horse, and the industry was just, everyone just said we had no shot. 15-1 morning lines, 17-1, going into the gate, and second longest odds in the field. And I'm like, I'm betting my ass on him. I bet 2-day double, 2-day pick 5, pick 4, pick 3s in and out. I bet him win play show. I mean, I killed it, but it was, I was probably the only person to bet on him. But it was an amazing experience. There's some really good footage on americasbestracing.com website. You can see it, and us going absolutely ape shit. It was quite the day.
Well, it's funny. You're on social media now. I was checking out your Instagram accounts. You have 28 Racing. 28 Racing, the word 2 spelled out, 8 spelled out, and then you're on Icon Racing LFG, and just kind of like listening to you talk about these horses and then watching your reaction to the Belmont, where I thought you were going to blow your vocal cords out.
I did. I ruined my voice.
and then the other thing I thought was cool is you really just love these horses. I think I can't remember what the horse was now, but you were talking about. You saw him in the paddock, your eyes met, and you just sensed this connection. Was it Rip something?
That was that Raging Bull colt we bought. Yeah.
Okay.
We might name him Rip. Actually, that's a good name. But yeah, I don't know what it is, man. Like ever since, I've always been an animal lover. Always had dogs and stuff, and these things become part of your family. There's
Mhm.
something to them. There's this connection you have. It's like Avatar, when you put your hair into the horses, hair man. I don't know. It's there's something about them that Dornoch kind of started this whole thing, and on the heels of the success, we started Icon Racing Syndicate and horse partnerships, and we're looking to do bring new owners into the sport of horse racing. The one thing for sure about horse racing is that it's not an easy sport to get into.
Right.
There's been some new age syndicates that have come along. West Point Racing, My Racehorse. There's a new one, Morning Line, and they've kind of doing this fractional ownership and kind of started to bring some more people into the sport. But until recently, it's really just been kind of like the old boys club. Like
Mhm.
they call them blue bloods from Kentucky. The people that have just been the same owners, the same families for over 100 years, and the sports, as big as it is internationally, and even nationally, it's not growing. It's kind of retracting. So the amount of fun and just the experience of the whole thing, and I tell people, like, when you play in sports at the highest level, and you reach the top, and regardless if you played in high school, college, or the pros or whatever, when you're done playing, there's really nothing to kind of recreate those experiences for you. You don't ever feel those competitive juices. You can't buy that sort of feeling. You can play golf or tennis at the country club, or you can play in a beer league softball game, but you're never gonna get that, like, that experience of what it was like to win a World Series, or to play in a playoff game, or to do anything like. And then all of a sudden you buy a horse and you run a horse at Tampa Bay Downs on a Tuesday afternoon in a $15,000 low level claiming race, and all of a sudden here comes this fucker bombing down the front stretch, and you're like, let's go! You're going crazy, and like all of a sudden, the thing wins, and then you feel like you're back on the field again. It's like your heart's beating out of your chest. You're like, my God, this is awesome. And I'm trying to tell people that, and they're like, whatever, dude. And then I start bringing people to races, and they're like, this is incredible, And so I was like, man, this might be something we could help the sport with getting more people into it, and kind of creating a situation for people to own horses versus just watch them or bet on them or whatever.
Jayson, more exciting, watching Dornoch come down the stretch at Belmont, or being there when Matt Stairs launched that one at Dodger Stadium?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same, right? I mean, it's kind of the same type of brain chemicals you get going. Obviously, that homer, Stairs he hit was huge. We had some big time moments in that run when with our Philly teams, and I had some big hits, and I think one of my better homers I hit was that first inning against the Dodgers off Padilla. Kind of same kind of situation. But it's like, when you start to run these races at the higher levels. I mean, the Belmont is like playing in the World Series. You win a race like that, all of a sudden it's like, you're like, oh my God, I'm literally at the top of a professional sport again, winning a race. So that, in that regard, it's very similar. And like, that's, again, there's nothing else you can do in life to recreate being a professional athlete, and horse racing actually gives you that opportunity.
This holiday season, I want to give a gift to my loved ones that makes them feel special and unique. That gift is Storyworth.
Here's how it works. Each week, Storyworth emails your loved one a thought-provoking question that you get to help pick. Things like, what's the bravest thing you've ever done? And what's the farthest you've ever traveled? All your loved one needs to do is respond with a story. Long or short, it doesn't matter. After that year of fun, Storyworth compiles those stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book that you'll be able to share and revisit for generations to come. This is the perfect book to pass along at family gatherings or read with your kids. It is beautifully orchestrated by Storyworth, and that's why it has more than 35,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot, with millions of stories preserved since they were founded over 10 years ago.
With Storyworth, I'm giving those I love most a thoughtful personal gift from the heart and preserving their memories and stories for years to come. Go to storyworth.com/foul and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/foul to save $10 on your first purchase.
But you,
So Jayson,
real quick, I read that you said you never got nervous as a player though, but you get nervous owning a horse and watching this horse race. Explain that to me, how you can get into a batter's box in a big spot and feel nothing, but this horse that is, you're not running the race.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So I think the best way to describe it is when I was playing, like, I mean, I've had, a million reps. I've had, I'm at the top of the sport. I was confident in my ability, what I could do. I was in some crazy way, I was in control of the situation, or at least I thought, right? So, I mean, the calmest that I've ever been was those World Series games. The bigger the game, the calmer I got. Horse racing is the exact opposite, and it's absolutely crazy. So I think it's because you have no control. So it takes so long for the horses to leave the paddock and then get on the track. They call it the post parade. They run down, they get them warmed up, and then they get them circled up and they get them into the gate. Like going into the gate at the Kentucky Derby, I was like hyperventilating. I literally couldn't. I had to do this weird scream thing to like be able to take a breath in. And my son Jackson, was standing next to me. He was like, "What's wrong? What are you doing?" So I don't know why it's so nerve wracking. I think because so much can go wrong. So like, there's like 100 things that have to happen for when they leave the barn, they go to the paddock, they get on the track, the vet could scratch them. Like a lot of things can happen. So it's just so nerve wracking. But then when they leave the gate, like all hell breaks loose. And it's like, it's almost like, you're in like a 2-run game or a 3-run game in a big game, and you're in the dugout and one of your teammates hits a double in the gap with the bases loaded, and you're like jumping around in the dugout and you're on the field, like, kind of you're waving them home or whatever. It's like, that's what horse race is like, but it lasts like a minute instead of like, a few seconds. So, I mean, I don't know. It's wild. I mean, come with me to a race sometime.
I would love it, man.
You'll get to see it.
So Jayson, you always struck me as someone who has sort of thought about the game differently as far as baseball is concerned. You're a pretty cerebral player. You thought about the game, like I said, a little differently than most players, and you sort of dissected things. You understood things. You tried to learn things. Is that the same sort of path that you've taken with your horse racing? Have you gone through like a whole, it sounds like you are so into it that you're studying it. You want to find out as much information about it as possible. When did that process start? How did that whole process go?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I just playing some golf with some guys. They own some horses. So I was like, I literally walked into the clubhouse, one day, and these guys turn on the horse races, and it's like the middle of the afternoon, and I'm looking at the race. I know nothing about horse racing other than the Triple Crown exists and all that. Right. And I'm like, is this a race that was recorded, like some other time, or is this was this the Kentucky Derby or something? They're like, no, dude, like it's right now. We have a horse running like right now at Gulfstream. Like, I'm like, right now? It's like 2 on a Wednesday. Like, what do you mean? And so that was kind of like how day one of horse racing. And then a few months later, I kind of got into it. Now we're doing this whole deal. But there's so many layers to horse racing. It's a fascinating sport, right? Like it's the oldest sport in the country, and like, I mean, I feel like it's the most unknown. And so, like, if you go to the horse races and you get one of the sheets that has like the past, they call them the PPs, the past performances, and it's got all the numbers on or whatever. It's like hieroglyphics, right? Like when you look at it, it's like you have no idea. So that's part of the problem. It's kind of this own industry too. Like no one really knows about it. It's all to itself. So and to answer your question, Ruben, like I've gotten into it. I'm like took a deep dive. Some people like dip a toe in the water. I jumped in with 2 feet into the deep end with no wings or whatever. That's just I'm definitely drowning at one point. But it's there's a lot to you keep pulling back these layers and talking to people. You keep learning more and more about the sport, and the horses are so interesting and fascinating creatures. And on top of that, they can't talk. it's like, so, how do you, you talk to the trainer and it's like, well, how's the horse? He's like, good. He's eating good and he's pooping good. It's like, okay, great. Like, so there's like this unknown science, like black magic to the sport where no one really actually knows because the horses can't talk to you. But, the more you get into it, the more interesting it is. And, my son Jackson, he was kind of the same way. And I took him to a race. And he was just like, this is the dumbest thing. I think he even said, he's like, what is this, the 1700s? Like, and now he's like going to the University of Kentucky. He's helping me with the racing syndicate. He goes to Keeneland all the time. He wants to look into maybe a career in horse racing or something after he gets his finance degree. It's just such a cool sport that I think more people could spend some time doing. I tell people, like, with this Icon Racing thing, it's a syndicate or partnership you get into. It's like owning season tickets to your favorite sports team. It's taking your family to Disneyland, and it's buying lotto tickets. It's kind of that combination. People can travel and go on vacation and go anywhere in the world, right? But you could also own horses and follow them around and then take your family on vacation and spend the time with them at the track and watch your horses run and go spend time with them at the barn and bet on them if you're into gambling or not. But
right.
So so my follow up to that is: have you talked to some of your old teammates who about getting involved, and how many guys have sort of jumped on, and how many guys sort of back off, and have you made a lot of inroads with some of your old teammates?
Yeah, some of the guys are interested. Not 100% sure of where we're at with like publicly announcing who's in it or not. But so perfect example are the Utleys, right? Their charity is the animal cruelty deal, and horse racing has all these old stigmas that go along with it. There's people still think that the stuff from 50, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago is still what's going on today. And I think horse racing's really done a good job to change what really goes on with the horses and how they're cared for. I mean, these things are taken care of really well. And then people are like, well, what about the lower levels? I'm like, well, even at the lower levels, there's like, there's tons of standards now, and they do have done a really good job, the Jockey Club. And HISA, for better or for worse, has stepped in to do a whole lot for this. So, people that my peers, I think that this is kind of the idea that who would benefit from this. They've taken notice and they have a lot of questions. I think some of them want to kind of see me prove out the concept and kind of follow along. That's one avenue with the media side of this, is to really just to give people an opportunity to follow along, whether they buy the horses or not. Whether they're part owners or not, they can follow along and see, what we're doing and kind of get, more information and learn more about the sport. I think a lot of this is, educating people to what horse racing really is and what it's all about. I think it's really changed in the last 20, 30 years. I think it still has a long way to go, but it's not like what horse racing used to be. And I think the old stigmas are long gone, but I think we got a lot of work to do in the industry to prove that out and to prove to people that this is something they want to be involved in. So a lot of people have interest, and I think on the heels of our success with Dornoch and all the fun that we're having, and horse racing is so much fun for the girls and the kids. The hats and the outfits and the fashion and just the weekends. There's concerts on like that go kind of correspond with the events. It's a really fun for the whole family type of sport when you get into it, and I think that it just needs a little bit better messaging, which we're going to try to provide with Icon Racing.
Well, I saw, like, I don't know which Instagram account it was, if it was 28 Racing or the Icon Racing LFG, but I saw Chase was at a race, right?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I started to tell a story. So so we bring the Utleys to a race, and it was kind of like, I told him this is a good story. So me and Chase go golfing in Scotland last June, and we go play all these courses, and we end up at this course called Royal Dornoch. It's in Dornoch, and we played it on Wednesday. I come back from the trip. I call the trainer. I said, "Hey, how's the big horse?" He's like, "Oh, he's doing good." I said, "Have we named him yet?" He's like, "Yeah, Larry named him." What do you name him? Dornoch. I was like, "After the golf course?" He said, "Yeah, I think so." I called Larry. I was like, "Larry, when'd you name him?" He's like, "Last Wednesday." Literally, me and Chase were at Royal Dornoch playing golf when Larry named him Dornoch. So I was telling Chase about this. I was like, "Dude, if we're in the Kentucky Derby, you got to come." and of course he doesn't come. So then, then we win the Belmont, and I'm like, dude, we're running in the Haskell. He ended up, he was
Okay.
around, so we're running the Haskell. It's in Monmouth. Like you got to come see this. Like it'll be okay. Mom's kind of smaller deal. It's not a big, not a big deal. Like I want to show you the sport. I want to tell you about it. It would be a tough sell to get the Utleys in on horse racing, with all that they do for animal cruelty. So it was a leap of faith for them to even get there. And then we have this amazing day. They got to go see the horse in the back of the backstretch in the barns, and go see the horses and talk to the trainers, the people that care for them, and get a little better sense of what horse racing is. I'm not sure that we sold them on it, but at least they feel better about it. And
Right.
and then then we go to the Haskell, and we win. I mean, Haskell's a big race. I mean, it's a grade one race. I mean, winning the Haskell's it's probably right. It's probably like, fifth or sixth biggest race of the year. So we win that. And then there's a video, you can see me and Chase going crazy. And,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I grab one of them. I'm like, I fucking told you.
It's cool to see all you guys are still close, super
Yep.
close. Was the Belmont the weekend of the London series, Jason?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Would you have been in London if not for the
I
Belmont?
told all those guys I was going unless we're running in the Belmont. And then,
Okay.
we run. And so it was, that
Okay.
was, one of those deals. But
It-
again, it's anybody I bring around to the races, they get a sense of what it really is. And I think it's,
Yeah.
it's a different sport than it used to be. It's a great sport. It's fun for the whole family. And, it was fun to get the LAs out there.
I know like I said, you're still close to a lot of those guys. We had Chase on this podcast like in late May or June, and he told some good stories. We had some other Hamels, Burrow on there. Do you have like a favorite Chase story that kind of encapsulates him as a baseball player, his intensity, his work ethic, the video watching? Anything come to mind for you?
Let's see. Well, just playing behind him all those years. At one point, we'd have this back and forth, and positioning, and just he's just right. He's the guy in front of me, so I'm always staring at him, and when he turns around, he'd always give me the outs and all that stuff. So
Right.
at one point in time, he something happened where if he saw the pitch count behind me, something bad happened. So I would there'd be a point in the game where then I'd have a question or one, what are we doing or something. I'd whistle at him, and he wouldn't turn around. And fine. I'm like, dude, what? Well, what's your deal? Why won't you turn around? He's like, I can't, the board. And so I'm like, what are you talking about? So this goes on, and finally, dude, what the fuck? Hey, he's like, I can't with the board. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I don't know, man. It's just if I see the board, we give up a hit or something. So we get, I was like, whatever, and then we get in these games, lopsided games where we beat people. So I'd whistle at him, and and whistle at him until he'd turn around. And he'd turn around, and he'd have his glove over his face.
He was that
so he
super.
couldn't see the board. He could only see me. I'm like, what? I don't know. He's Chase. It was, I don't know. It was a pleasure to get to play behind him all those years. And I was just on another phone call. They were talking about him with the Hall of Fame, and it's he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt in my mind. His intangibles that he brought to the field every day was what separated him from everybody else. And that's something that you can't see on your stat line or anything like that. Did he have some injuries? Is the amount of volume there? I mean, that's what the Hall of Fame is about, right? It's how much volume he had, your years, and he had some injuries, so he's kind of, he's close. He's kind of on the bubble, but his intangibles, I think, set him apart. And to me, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Talk about a little
No
bit,
doubt.
Jason, about that piece of it. I mean, people talk about the numbers and it's all about the numbers. Talk about how important it is to have those type, what it is to be a Hall of Fame teammate, what it is to be a Hall of Fame or a creative Hall of Fame clubhouse, and how important that is for winning teams.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that's kind of lost in today's game, right? There's so much focus on these crazy stats and these the stuff that we never even knew about when I played. And I think what gets lost is that like the chemistry, the intangibles, your Hall of Fame clubhouse, not just a Hall of Fame team, but what makes a winning team. And I think that's, what set us apart those years and from 2000 to 2010 was we had an unbelievable chemistry. From the coaching staff, from Charlie to the players to the training staff. I mean, it was an unbelievable place to go to work every day, and that is something that I think really sets teams apart. But you can't quantify it, right? So it's how do you it's not on the back of your baseball card. How do you make that? And it's the people, right? It's the character of the players. It's the character of the staff, of the coaching staff, of the manager that create that atmosphere, that winning atmosphere. Perfect example is in Washington. I go to Washington and the first year I was there, it was a mess. We finished 500, and then from 2012 to 2017, we were the best team in baseball, and it was because we created a winning climate, winning atmosphere. Yeah, we had different managers, but the training staff, the clubhouse staff, and the players created this really cohesive place that was had great chemistry, but we couldn't get it done. We got bounced in the first round of the playoffs because it's so hard to win, right? Well, the 2019 team comes along. It's still pretty much the same nucleus, same core guys that I played with when I was there. And the difference was they had the it factor. Our 2018, we had the it factor. Our 2019, we got beat by a bunch of ghosts in New York. I mean, we had the it factor. It was, it was that type of atmosphere that you create. And those type of guys like Chase and Jimmy and Ryan and Shane and me and Pat, like the guys like that, those are the guys that create that atmosphere where you go into work every day, and you check your egos at the door. You walk in there, and no one's safe, and everybody's going, and everybody else, the whole group is moving in one direction. It's an incredible place to be if you can get it.
Jayson, that's great stuff. 09 with the ghosts and all. You guys win it in 08. It's a great memory for everybody on this phone call, on this Zoom call, I should say. The current Phillies are trying to get there, and they're trying to get over the hump, and they have a lot of talent. And they're two of those big pieces they have are, friends of yours, former teammates from Washington, Bryce Harper, Trea Turner. You keep tabs on those guys as Phillies?
Yeah, I keep track of them a little bit. I feel like I raised those kids. I got Bryce when he was 19. We got Trea when he was, he was coming over he got a really weird deal. Trea, we got him at a kind of a weird time. He had spent time with the Padres in big league camp as a Washington National. So I can't imagine what it was like for him as a Washington National in the big league camp as a kid for the Padres. And I saw what happened to him when we got him. I mean, he was like, he didn't even know how to didn't know how to really be in the big league clubhouse because of what those guys did to him probably in San Diego. So we had a little work to do with Trea. We got him straightened out. Bryce obviously has become an unbelievable human being. I'm so proud of Bryce. When we got him when he was 19, he was such a shithead, and he's running face first into walls in LA and getting kicked out of games all the time. It was a journey with Bryce, but I think we did a lot of good stuff in Washington with those guys. We had good teams and with good people, and we won a lot of games. And to watch those two kids go over to Philly and and play in the atmosphere that I played in on good teams in a city that loves their players, can love their players, and it's been special. I think that what happened with Trea and the that whole thing with when they I don't know. There's that. I haven't seen the documentary yet, but that whole thing was that was. I mean, that was so awesome, and that only a city like Philadelphia could come up with something like that. I mean, it didn't seem very Philly to me, but it turned out to be. And I mean, I love the city for that. They took care of a really good kid, and they should have because he's a great player. And that's a great team, and really, I think that turned that season around, and maybe could be quite possibly could have turned his whole career around. I mean, that could have been a different deal. You look at one of my comps when I played was Carl Crawford, and when Carl went to Boston, which was almost where I went, and it wasn't the same. Wasn't the same type of situation. He basically got booed out of town, and Trea was close to that. But I'll give it to Philadelphia for turning it around and getting Trea back where he needed to be and back on track. And I mean, Trea to me is literally if not one of the best athletes on the planet. I mean, he's fast, he's strong, he hits for power, hits for average. I mean, he's freakishly fast. I mean, he's not just fast; he's freakishly fast. He plays a high demand position. He's got a great mind. He's a smart kid. He's funny. He's got all the intangibles. He's a gritty guy, and to answer your question, yeah, I keep tabs on those guys. But also, Jim, you got to realize that it's not easy winning. I mean, winning's hard. These guys are going at it, and they're in it. The town should be very satisfied with this. Obviously, you want to win, and that's the ultimate goal. But these guys are still young. They got a big run left in them. It's going to be I think it's going to be a long run with them. The team keeps adding pieces, and I think the ownership group is the right group to get it done. So I think there's still a lot left in this team, and obviously Bryce is kind of the linchpin in the clubhouse and in the organization. And again, I think that Bryce has become what he was supposed to be. But if it wasn't for some guys in Washington and the group that was there that kind of had him for those years, and maybe it would be different. But I think the ultimate thing for Bryce is it was him to get out of Washington and get a kind of a clean slate, just some new beginnings can be great. And he kudos to him because he made the most of it. But awesome kid, awesome guy, great father, husband, and family man and teammate. So really proud of those guys.
I mean, I hear you when you say winning is hard. It's hard, and I can hear in your voice. I hear affection for Philadelphia. I hear affection for your Phillies experience. Can you imagine? And I loved you. Were one of the guys I loved writing about. I loved telling stories about you. I always thought you were interesting copy, as we say in the business. and my condolences. I know you lost your granddad a couple of years ago. I had such a great time talking to him on the phone. He won a World Series with the Pirates. Dick Schofield won a World Series with the Pirates in '60. And, as I'm hanging up the phone from him, doing this kind of human interest piece, he says, "Tell Jayson to stop taking those fastballs down the middle." And I'm also thinking about another phone call, how different your life would be the morning after the Dodgers non-tendered you. If your phone doesn't ring and you hear that old familiar voice of Pat Gillick, how different your life and your story would be.
Yeah, well, and I think it's twofold. I think the untold story, and I told it this summer, and I don't think I've really ever told it before. So, I get non-tendered by the Dodgers at 11:50 Eastern, 10 minutes before the trade deadline, and I sat up all night contemplating life and just I can't believe I'm here. And then 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, my phone rings, and it's back when you had answer machines, and I hear I'm sitting on the couch. I sit up like, who's calling me this early? And I hear Jayson. And then I say it with him. It's Pat Gillick, because he had that distinct voice. So I listened. I like, oh shit! I listened to the recording, and I like jumped up and ran over there and called him back, and he came to see me the next day. There's a more interesting story though, and Ruben, you might remember this day. So July 31st, Michael Bourne and Shane Victorino both go down with injuries. I'm on a rehab assignment, still trying to figure my wrist out. I'm 1 for 16 on my rehab assignment. I haven't played in 3 years, basically. I played hurt in 05. I didn't play in 06, and this is like almost the end of 07. So I literally can't. My wrist still bugging me or whatever. And they, you guys called me up to Chicago, and because from what I understand is you guys couldn't get a trade done that night after the game at the deadline because they got hurt. It was pretty late. So, I obviously there's not, there's other trades to be made or whatever. But you call me up, and we're in Chicago, and I'm starting and left, and before the game or before batting practice, one or the other. Either way,
this is a great story, man.
Other way it was bullshit, but here it comes. I go out to walk out to the field. There's Pat sitting in Charlie's office. So the manager's office in the old stadium was right as you walk out. So he's sitting in there, and I walk by. Jayson calls me in, sits me down, gives me this heart to heart, and basically tells me what I remember. Well, the only thing I really heard was this is your last chance in professional baseball. And I mean, I pretty much cried my whole way to the dugout because it was like the saddest thing I've ever heard. Right? Like, I mean, how could I be in this situation? Like, like I haven't played in 3 years, and now like I got 2 surgeries, my wrist banged up. Now this is my last chance in baseball. Like, this is it. Like, all right. Like, I think I got 2 hits the first night and 4 hits the next night.
You went nuts.
And then I hit 414 in August, and I don't come
Correct.
off the field for 10 fucking years. Last chance in baseball.
That's awesome.
Well,
I've never heard that
thing
story.
about that, and I'll just say this: I know that Pat obviously had a great affinity to you. He drafted you. He's known you for years. He believes in pedigree. He believes in the fact that your whole family's so freaking athletic, and I think that you really meant a lot to him. And I think that he doesn't have those kind of conversations very often. Maybe that's the only one I ever really remember him actually having. And I think he cared about you so much that He's like, man, I gotta figure out a way to get this guy really to the right space because I believe in him.
Yeah, no, and that's what it was, and that's why it meant so much. I mean, because it hurt coming from him. I had he drafted me at like. I just couldn't believe that this was it, So, I mean, I think I was like had tears in my eyes when I was lacing my shoes up. That it was tough, but that was what I needed, And like Charlie was tough on me, for sure over my time in Philly. But that was in 07. Pat, that was the first time, Pat had really like put a shoe in my ass, and that was what I needed. And I literally that changed. You want to talk about what changed my career? Like the call that morning. When the Dodgers released me, when I got signed with the Phillies, that was a moment. But the one that really got me going was that conversation with Pat Gillick telling me this is my last chance. I mean, I literally didn't stop playing baseball for 10 more years. So it was.
and a credit to you to have done that, because there's a lot of people who just said, oh, could have thrown in the towel, but for you to have done that, you deserve a lot of credit for that too.
Well, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that I was done. I still believed in myself. I still thought I was, who I could be, or who it turned out being.
Right.
But, I told that story this year at the after the Belmont, because I felt like that's where Dornoch was, and going into the Belmont. If he doesn't win this race, he's never going to be in this conversation of being a sire. He's never going to be, in the conversation of greatest horses ever, a horse of the year, 3-year-old of the year, or whatever it is. Like, he's never going to be anything if he doesn't win this race. And I literally went over to him to the barn, and I told him that story. I gave him the pep talk, and I said, Pat Gillick told me, this was my last chance in professional baseball. I'll tell you the same thing, buddy. This is your last chance in horse racing, and banged him on the nose. And then he goes out and runs off the fucking screen. I mean, that's crazy.
That's sick. That's all. That's an incredible story.
Jayson. So those were both Pat Gillick moments. The moment after the Dodgers and the moment in Wrigley Field. I think you should name a horse after Pat Gillick.
Yeah, no doubt.
We might have
PG.
to. Yeah.
Gilly the Philly. Come on.
Gilly the Philly.
That's good stuff.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome,
so cool.
Jayson. I got a couple more, just a couple like really dumb horse racing questions for you. Your gear that you wear for the races, you got the good suit on, you got the good hat on.
The sun came out here. Let me show you. All
right, yeah. I'll ask you the question.
I'll
ask you the question though while you're doing it. All right, see you, Rube.
You can edit me out of this.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
No, just go. We don't care about you.
Love you. Hey, thanks so much, Jayson. Be well.
Always a pleasure, man.
A couple more, Jayson, is the gear that you wear, the hat, the suit. How much thought do you put into that? Because you always look real nice.
Well, I think that's part of the fun, right? If you want to like, we always say, you look good, you play good, and these horses, like if you win, you go in the winner's circle. You want to look good in the winner's circle. You want to look proper, like you planned it. Right. I should see the get ups we had for for the Derby. I don't know. Julia had this unbelievable dress. It was like roses. It looked like she had roses on, and and like we were just saying, well, you plan to win, So
That's right.
we were just at the Breeders' Cup, and our gear for the Breeders' Cup was pretty impressive, I thought as well. And we've kind of, it's sometimes different races have colored themes. So purple is the Breeders' Cup. And we were all decked out in purple, and we were supposed to run in that race, but Dornoch retired before that race, so he didn't run. But we had planned to be there and run. But yeah, it's part of the gig, right? It's like high fashion. You got the weekend. There's always something going on. The parties, the social circles. It's a lot of fun. It's a great it's a great networking experience. There's always fun and cool people. You meet I was just last weekend at Breeders' Cup. I was there with went and saw Alex Bregman, and he had a horse running. And
oh, cool.
And didn't really know him in baseball, but know him in horse racing. Great guy, great family. And he named the horse that was running is Governor Sam. He named him after his dad. His dad's a prosecuting attorney, and he wanted him to be governor, so they named the horse Governor Sam. And then
that's awesome.
So there's the storylines that go in with these horses and everything. It's a lot of fun, and the fashion and then the hats. It's all about the hats. So
it's very cool. And then my last question is the Pappy Van Winkle on tap at the Kentucky Derby?
I'm a tequila guy. I'm a tequila guy.
Oh, you're a tequila guy. Okay. All right. I was hoping,
if you watch the video from the Belmont, there's a bottle of Clase Azul sitting there. So we're
That's awesome. Well, Jayson, thanks so much, man. Like I said, Jim and I, we love people always ask us all the time, like, who you love covering. We always say you were one of our favorites because you're always super insightful and always fun to talk to. So, Jim, you got something?
Well, I can expound on that. How much we enjoyed covering you, Jayson. One day, I'm not sure when, but Todd and I were doing what baseball writers often do: stand around, waiting for people, and getting in the way. And we were kind of filled with a moment of self-loathing. And we sort of looked around and we said, Todd, you're going to remember this. I said, which one of these guys you think, if we'd have dropped dead tomorrow, any of these guys come to our funeral? And we started thinking about it. We're going around the room, and we determined that Jayson Werth would come to our funeral, and Chase might come if he was in town. So thank you.
That's good. I'm glad you thought like that. I definitely would. You guys were great. I was kind of like odd man out there when I got to Philly, and I was easy target at times, and we had a lot of good fun, good times, good laughs, and you guys were always some of my favorite guys. When I went to Washington, I definitely miss you guys.
That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time and good luck with everything. Again, Jayson, follow his horse racing career at on Instagram at 28 Racing and at Icon Racing LFG. I'm going to be fun. Hopefully, you're back at some of these races next year and maybe putting some money on you.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
all right. Well, keep tabs on me. We'll see how we do. Good talk.
Thanks,
Good talking.
That was awesome. I think you guys can see why Jim and I particularly enjoyed covering Jayson so much during his Phillies career and beyond. We will be back next week with more Phillies talk. Take care, everybody. The Phillies Show is brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Subscribe to The Phillies Show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like us, give us a review. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, and Threads. Find Ruben's analysis before, during, and after Phillies games on NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Morning Show, and MLB Network. Find Jim at allphly.com. Find me at MLB.com, the Phillies Beat newsletter, and MLB Network.